one of the rarest cars that ever went on sale in South Africa. This is a Mk1 Citi Golf 1.8i. And you're joining me as I drive it for the very first time. It's my job to tell you what it's all about. But before we continue, remember, the Cars.co.za has the largest selection of new and used cars online anywhere in South Africa. Go find your next car. Dream, search, drive.
Cars.co.za.
We got the parts.
I got the part.
I got the part.
When it comes to finding the right part at the right price, there's just no place like Midas for the love of cars.
Right, here we go. The pinnacle of the Mk1 Golf in South Africa, the 1.8i. Right, here we go. 1.8 Golf, listen to that. So many revs. So what is this car's story? Well, you might remember that Volkswagen brought out a Citi Golf 1.8R. They made 100 of those, and those were numbered and had a special body kit. But there are many stories about this. But the one story goes that that body kit proved to be quite problematic. It had paint issues and the owners weren't particularly happy with it. So after that run of 100, they wanted to make a few more with this 1.8 drivetrain, and so they made this, the 1.8i. They stripped most of the body kit, but it does have a special front bumper, but mechanically it's identical to the R. They only made 250 of these, but they weren't numbered. So this is a super rare configuration for the Mk1 Golf. And the way they achieved something special here was they took a 1.6 block and stroked it. So stroked up to 1.8. And then to get some extra firepower out of this, they fitted a very special cam from VW Motorsport, which has a higher lift and a higher duration than the standard engine. And so you end up with a little 1.8 naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, no turbo, there's nothing like that under here, no forced induction, with 90 kilowatts and over 160 Newton meters of torque. Now by modern standards that does not sound like a lot, but this car weighs just over 800 kilograms. That's it, that's all there is to it. 800 kilograms. Second gear pull, 4,000, 5,000. The red line is just after 6,000. Oh, this is such a lovely little thing to drive. So filming cars in Gauteng is challenging. There's just traffic, there's just so much city. You just can't get out of the city. So we've driven an hour out of town to the Sterkfontein Caves, and the road surface isn't perfect, I'm not gonna lie. A little bit bumpy out here, but even so, this Golf feels great, it really does. I think what's so wonderful about it is how analog it is. There's so much feedback, there is power steering, but I know exactly what the car is doing all the time. So I just drove the brand new Polo GTI, and I suppose that is the spiritual successor of this car in many, many ways. And it's an impressive car. It's a nice little hot hatch, but it left me feeling a little bit cold. Something missing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people who waxes lyrical about how great old cars are and how boring new cars are. New cars are technological marvels. They're very, very safe. They're very comfortable. They're great to drive Monday to Friday. But they definitely have lost some character. A lot of that is down to the noise that the car makes. Now, to make this car sound as good as it did, they put a completely custom exhaust system on it. So it's not custom as in it's modified, it's from factory. It was supplied by Bosel. It was a stainless steel system, and it was right from the head to the tailpipe. Completely different exhaust to anything else you got on a Citi Golf. And that for me has resulted in one of the highlights of this car. Second gear, foot flat, 6,000. There's 100. This is one of the nicest sounding little cars that I've ever driven. And because there's no turbocharger interfering with the flow of the exhaust, you get all of that oral goodness getting piped underneath you here and resonating and just delighting your ears. Such a unique sound. So this particular vehicle belongs to a young gentleman who messaged us and said, I've got this rare Golf, would you like to film it? And of course we said yes. And him and his father-in-law are building up a bit of a collection of old VWs. They've got that Mark II Jumbo GTI that we also filmed. They were kind enough to bring both cars out for us. And both cars are really lovingly looked after. You can just see that a lot of care and attention goes into these cars. I mean, this one has done 103,000 Ks, but if you look at the interior, I mean, it pretty much looks brand new. It's fantastic in here. So for this 1.8i, there were a couple of touches which made you feel like you were sitting in something special. And a lot of this was carried over from the R. So for instance, these seats are from the R, this sort of half cloth, half leather with the red stitching. Handbrake really nice as well. The red stitching carries on to there. And look at this gear knob. It's so likable. It's so lovable. It just really, really fits the car. It's iconic, that sort of golf knob. Golf knob? Golf ball. Golf knob. Just invented something. The steering wheel, obviously very special as well. This was unique. I love the silver accents on the dials. Of course, this was the upgraded Citi Golf dashboard. Everything is so squared off. It's so simple, but so effective. The owners obviously upgraded the sound system quite significantly. There is aircon in here, which is nice. 2 little drinks holders down there. But for me, the Citi character comes through in little things like the checker pattern on the door. I love this cloth over here, and the headlining is very special as well. For me, this is just such an iconic South African car, and this is the pinnacle of Mark 1 Golf. Obviously in South Africa we kept building them for many years after the rest of the world stopped building them. But I think we came to really sort of own this vehicle. This car became part of our society, part of the landscape. And they are becoming more and more sought after all over the world as well. People coming in, buying them, taking them back overseas with them. And I wonder how many of these have ended up overseas. These will definitely become increasingly sought after, I have no doubt. And as far as sort of collecting cars goes and driving classics goes, this is just such a great way into the world of classics. Easy to work on, easy to find parts for. What a pleasure. You know, it still feels fast. I mean, 90 kilowatts just doesn't sound like a lot of power at all. But I think it's the combination of the noise. It sort of sounds like you're going faster than you are going. And the new Polo GTI did sound a bit like a Hoover, not gonna lie. This sounds like a car. And you know, know, another thing that the turbocharged era has robbed us of is the responsiveness of this drivetrain, of this motor. And even though the peak power figures are so high up the rev range, it just always feels like the engine is there for you and ready to respond to what you need. I mean, that's fourth gear, picking up from about 70 k's an hour, and there we're up to 100. I mean, I didn't even need to gear down there to, say, pull off an overtake or something like that. So I suppose on this little drive, the one thing I haven't really been able to test is the handling through the corners. Pretty straight road, very sort of long sweeping corners. But what I can tell you is I am getting so much feedback through the seat of my pants and through my hands on the wheel. It does have power steering, but you just know exactly what the front tires are up to all the time. I can imagine taking this around a track and getting some lift-off oversteer would be so much fun. Maybe we'll drive it again at some point. This little car is putting such a big smile on my face. And isn't that the whole point of classic motoring? Pretty much. But I think for me, this was sort of peak 90s, early 2000s Volkswagen. Everything after this has become quite complicated and quite fat, really. I mean, the new Polo GTI almost weighs 1,400 kilograms. And yes, a lot of that is safety features, side impact protection and crumple zones and airbags and all the rest of it, which this car has precisely all of. I definitely feel safer in a Polo GTI. But would I be having as much fun? Absolutely not. Thanks very much for watching. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Tell us what you think about the car, or tell us why you think we're terrible at our jobs. All right. Bye.
Cars.co.za